Broadcasting live from the Capital OTB studios, this is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow.
Good morning and welcome to Racing Across America here on the Capital OTB TV. Seth Merrow, thanks for joining us on this Sunday morning. Thanks also to our friends at Gulfstream for this program and some of the other programming and events here at Capital OTB. Appreciate their support. As always on a Sunday morning, we will recap some of the stakes action from yesterday, and it was quite a day stakes-wise across the country. We'll hit on some Tampa Bay and some Santa Anita here in the opening segment. A little bit later on, we'll be joined by Dave Grening from the Daily Racing Forum covering New York racing. So we'll wait and look at the Aqueduct Stakes races a little bit later on with Dave, but again, really fun stakes action yesterday across the country. We're not going to touch on the stakes down at Gulfstream, and they fell apart a little bit because of the weather, but they had a nice stakes day down at Gulfstream as well, stakes at Oaklawn. So, I mean, there was a lot going on. I'm just going to concentrate on the big three here. We'll also do a little handicapping a little bit later on, maybe take a look at late pick four Tampa, maybe coming up this afternoon on OTB Live. That'll be the game plan. I'll have a little Aqueduct, a little Tampa, a little Gulfstream in the mix, and we'll have some other tracks as well here on the network, but I'll take a look at those three this afternoon. Don't forget, the Derby Future Pool closes at, I believe, 6 o'clock tonight. And after yesterday's performance, the single, and in fact, overall, the lowest price now on the board, no surprise, Life is Good is currently down to 3-1. Essential Quality is at 4-1. Greatest Honor is at 5-1. I think everyone else is in double digits. Yeah, still interesting to me. All Others, I'm going to take a pop at that, I think, before the day is done. All Others at this point is 10-1. Doesn't include the winner of the Tampa Bay Derby or the Gotham, so neither of which were nominated. Also, so the question marks there, but you would think off of the win they will probably get into the field of because there's still a nomination, late nomination period left. But I thought 10-1 on All Others was still kind of intriguing. Otherwise, if you're looking for prices, Caddo River 15-1. We were talking yesterday, and Brian Nadeau, I said. Mandaloon, I wasn't quite sure. And yesterday, I want to say 15 or 17-1, I guess, yesterday. Now 19-1. And Brian said, I'd take the 19-1 because if he wins the next race, you're not going to get that in the Derby. And at 19-1, you are talking $40. So I guess Mandaloon starts to flirt with that area that you can play around with a little bit. Medina Spirit off the second yesterday, 27-1. Prevalence and Collaborate. Off of the maiden victories, Prevalence is 28-1. Collaborate is 29-1. If you think they have some upside potential, there's still a lot of work to do for those two, though. But they could be interesting at the prices. Highly Motivated, 31-1 now. Some of the horses after yesterday's performances popped up surprisingly, finishing behind some other horses. So again, you can take a look at that pool before the end of the day and maybe jump in if you have an opinion and you're getting a price, play around with that a little bit. Don't forget, there's also an Exacta box. There is an Oaks pool this weekend as well, and there's a Derby, an Oaks Derby future wager as well, so you can play around with that before the end of the day. All right, let's jump in with some of the recapped stakes action. And Tampa Bay Derby yesterday, I was in doing the show, and we talked about this race on the stakes preview, Mike Callahan and I. I had Promise Keeper over Candyman Rocket, and they wound up to be the favorite and the third choice. Candyman Rocket went off at 8-5. Promise Keeper went off at 4-1. In between those two was Hidden Stash. But I had Candyman Rocket second, Promise Keeper on top. They ran last, Promise Keeper, and next to last, Candyman Rocket in the field of 12. So poor performance from my top two. But I said on the stakes preview, I thought Helium was very interesting. And yesterday during OTB Live, looking up and seeing 15-1, I thought Helium was really intriguing. And I had Hidden Stash down the 4th spot. So it's one of those races where you look up at the odds and see Helium as an interesting horse at 15-1 in a big field. Could have played around with the 4-horse Exacta box, and they wound up running 1-2 in it. And we'll see in the Gotham later, one of the 2 Derby preps with really ding-dong stretch battles. Helium had a troubled trip wide, and it was sitting way back early, but Helium makes a run. Helium's going to be the number 10 horse here. Hidden Stash off the big closing effort in the Sam Davis, the number 8, makes another late run, and looks like, and Vicky Oliver, the trainer of Hidden Stash, said, I thought I had it. And I think right here you would have thought, probably does. But no, Helium says, I'm not letting you go by. And Helium eventually opens and wins it by 3/4 of a length. Hidden Stash runs second. Moonlight Strike runs third. Unbridled Honor fourth. As I say, Candyman Rocket, the favorite, disappoints, running 11th in the field of 12. And the Pletcher horse, I was intrigued in, Promise Keeper, last. So the horses I had on top of my mix, last and next to last, the horses I had sitting in the 3rd and 4th on my radar were 1-2. But again, with the prices, if you played around in here, you wound up with, for a couple of bucks, $140 Exacta. You wound up with Helium, who I thought was intriguing, paying $32 and change to win. Helium, and I said it, talking about it, stakes previewing yesterday during OTB Live, 2 starts up at Woodbine over the synthetic, 2 nice wins, including a stakes win. And the workouts underneath at Palmettos on the dirt were okay. And as I said yesterday, I had Brisnet PPs also. Workout lines went back a little further. And this horse had a bullet 59 and change, I want to say, at the end of the year at Fairgrounds, before obviously moving over to Mark Cassie's Ocala Center and then subsequently down to Palmettos. So there was some reason to think, the dirt was not going to be an obstacle, given what this horse had done in the morning. The 2 starts so far in the 2-year-old season. If this horse comes back with a little 3-year-old added maturity, all that played out. And again, you got 15-1 there. Mentioned earlier, this horse is not yet nominated for the Triple Crown, but they expect to, I think it's $6,000 before the end of the month, get you nominated. Mark Cassie has subsequently come out and said, probably straight to the Derby. Not definite yet, but may just come off of this victory and go straight to the Derby. He said, I thought this race maybe took a little out of him, so I don't know whether we'll go to another start. He showed on Saturday that he can run well off a little bit of a layoff. So we'll see what Helium does. Veteran jockey Jose Ferrer was on board for Cassie. Said he knew, he had some horse middle of the race and got into the stretch. The other horse came up to him, and Helium re-broke, and he was obviously happy with that result. Jose Ferrer being a regular in the winter season down at Tampa. The article I read, I think, said he'd been in maybe 4 other Tampa Bay Derbies. Obviously never won, but came up with a win yesterday for Mark Cassie on Helium. Hidden Stash, as I say, Vicky Oliver said mid-stretch, she thought, man, I got this. Wound up second. May wind up still needing some points. And I think I do have the points list here. Hidden Stash is sitting with 22. So probably will need some more points. And Vicky Oliver said maybe the Bluegrass next for Hidden Stash. So again, Tampa Bay Derby, Helium, Hidden Stash, looking pretty good, going 1-2, and we'll see what's up for, because Hidden Stash off the Sam Davis wasn't so much of a surprise, but Helium was a little bit of a surprise, obviously, off the layoff, only the 3rd career start. So it's going to be interesting to see what the game plan will be for those 2, and then if they make it to the Derby, how things shake out there, because they both look interesting yesterday. Also, Tampa yesterday, let me turn one race earlier, and it was the Florida Oaks. And In this one, it was a Chad Brown Klarovich runner getting it done. We're going to watch the stretch run. It's going to be number 10, Domain Expertise over Jouster. I had Jouster on top, the number 2. I had Domain Expertise down in the 3rd spot, but they wind up 1-2 here with a nice late run coming from the Klarovich runner. I thought Jouster, as they come to the wire here, live, I thought Jouster had it, but he just gets beaten. Chart margin is a nose. I thought my top pick held on at a good 5-1, or excuse me, 3-5. 5-1 was the Klarovich runner, Domain Expertise. But I thought Jouster held on. Jouster was the 3-5 favorite in there. But again, it's a chart margin of a nose. They were a couple of lengths ahead of Oyster Box running 3rd. Mia Martina ran 4th. But Domain Expertise, likely a nice little 3-year-old filly turfer. Both the top runners, nice 3-year-old filly turfers, being lately raced for their connections. Domain Expertise came in with only 4 starts, 1 win, a 2nd, and a 3rd. Had run 3rd in the previous start in the Swedish Chant down at Gulfstream. So again, now not only stakes placed, but a stakes winner in 5 career starts for Chad and Klarovich. Jouster had come in with also 4 starts, but Jouster had a couple of wins and a 3rd. Had not tried Stakes Company. That was a pretty good looking stakes debut. So again, as far as 3-year-old fillies on the turf, they'd be worth looking at going forward and being with their connections. You would have to think probably later this season we're likely to see them up in Saratoga. Certainly Belmont in the spring for both of those, being Chad and Klarovich and Todd Pletcher. Although I say that, there may be a little Keeneland in both of their futures as well. We'll see where they go. But again, they both look pretty good on Saturday. In a card that held together, because if you watch the stakes preview, which we taped on Thursday afternoon, looking out at that point at the Tampa weather, it looked like they may have some rain all day, and we were kind of keeping our fingers crossed that the turf races would hold together. As it worked out, I think they had a little rain early, and pretty much the afternoon was okay, and the track held up beautifully, which great news for everybody involved, and led to, I wrote it down here, a record handle down at Tampa. $15.2 million record handle yesterday at Tampa on that Tampa Bay Derby card. Typically their big day. Still some meat left at Tampa. There'll still be some nice stakes days coming. But again, the Tampa Bay Derby and the undercard typically is the big day down there, and was signaled handle. The Hillsborough on the card yesterday, and if you were watching OTB Live in the afternoon, I hope you took advantage of, tossed out a exacta box play. And again, like with the Tampa Bay Derby, there was enough value there and field size to maybe play around going 4 deep in the exacta. And I said I liked Micheline on top. I had Morning Molly in the 3rd spot on my selections, but they wind up one like Morning Molly, the Tommy Proctor runner, as a horse that I thought had a shot at a price. And again, that one went off at 11-1. So Micheline's the number 11, Morning Molly's the number 10, Girl number 7 runs 3rd, Leslie 4th. And I had to sweat out a photo here with Morning Molly in the 2nd spot, because that got tight. Clearly Micheline was the winner at 9-2. But Morning Molly, there was a ding-dong battle there. Chart margin winds up to be ahead. So it's 9-2 over to 11-1, and I said during OTB Live yesterday, maybe box them up, because Morning Molly, to me, from Tommy Proctor, was interesting. Was coming off of a stakes win over at Sam Houston just prior to this race, had run well in a couple of turf starts at Tampa previously, and got away at 11-1 yesterday. So the 9-2 over 11-1, you wound up with a $190-some exacta on those two. So again, hopefully people are maybe looking, and maybe toss, if you like Micheline, toss a little Morning Molly into your mix and walked away with a decent little price. And I said Signier ran 4th. There was actually a dead heat for 4th. I should make that clear as well. It was La Signier and Miss Tehran beating for fourth. But Micheline, Morning Molly, 1-2. Mike Stidham has Micheline. It's a horse I've kind of liked throughout the career. She had a decent little 3-year-old season last year with a couple of wins and a couple of seconds. Really a steady string of stakes races. Finished a close-up second in the QE2 at Greenland to wind up the 3-year-old season. So her first time stepping in against older, and does it successfully for Stidham, Godolphin, and Luis Saez as well. In the Florida, or in the Hillsborough, which again we talked about as well on the stakes preview on which we recorded Thursday afternoon, but popped out onto the social media channels Friday that went out. So again, hopefully you were tuning into that and took some of that advice as well. A little bit earlier, Columbia, gonna watch the stretch drive here, 3-year-olds on the turf. That subdivision I like, and it was Win From Within. I looked at this horse. This is one I didn't have in my mix. You can see there by the odds, the betting public went in that direction. It's a horse that had 4 starts for Todd Pletcher, and I could have put the horse in the mix. There was nothing really against the horse. I liked Crew Dragon, the horse that winds up running second here, and I had Boreas running third in the second spot. That one runs third. So my top 2 run second and third behind Win From Within. And again, Win From Within, 3 starts as a 2-year-old. They were all on dirt. None of them was super inspiring. Then came down to Gulfstream and got a turf start and seemed to improve greatly with that turf start back in the early part of January. So I could have made the case to go there. I just thought some others were a little more interesting. But again, the betting public tilted towards Win From Within. They were correct. Luis Saez on board. Again, another stakes win for him. Nice day for Saez over at Tampa, and Win From Within. Now, 2 for 2 on the turf, including a stakes victory for Todd Pletcher in that subdivision that I like of the 3-year-olds on turf. He'll be one to watch going forward. And Bill Mott, Crew Dragon, decent second. Just by the time he got going, Win From Within was, off to the races and too far ahead. So Crew Dragon will be one to pay attention to. You got 8-1 on Crew Dragon. Again, that's the one I used on top, but I thought it was, again, decent little second. Just got going a little too late. Finally, at Tampa, one more stakes race on the card. It was the Challenger. Short field in here. I thought it was between Warstopper and Last Judgment, but Modernist was interesting to see what that one was going to do. Modernist will be the number 5 here. A horse that started the career with a lot of promise for Bill Mott. Won the Risen Star last year. Did number 5 Modernist. Clunked in the Belmont and the Peter Pan, so hadn't been seen since July, and it was just interesting to see Modernist in the 4-year-old seasonal debut, the number 5 horse. Gets going here, runs a decent second to start the season off a long layup. Might be interesting watching going forward, but the winner was Last Judgment. Number 3, Warstopper, who I had on top, runs third. Warstopper and Last Judgment both 7-5, but Last Judgment, the winner, slightly favored. So the betting public got it right. Mike Maker, trainee, Dan Santino on board, had won a Sunshine Millions, the Sunshine Classic 2-back down at Gulfstream, and then ran poorly in the Pegasus, but gets it done on Saturday in the Challenger down at Tampa with, again, Modernist. Decent little seasonal debut. I guess it depends on how you look at it. I mean, it wasn't super inspiring, but once again, the winner had the jump. The winner led all the way around, and Modernist kind of got a little momentum going late. And off the layup, just one of those that, let's see what he does next time, and if he can kind of move forward and validate the promise shown early in the 3-year-old season. All right, let's move over to Santa Anita and take a look at some of their action on Saturday. Let's kind of work our way back from the big cap, Santa Anita handicap. Watch the stretch run here. Maxfield, the number 2 horse, as the $1.10 to $1 favorite, winds up third. Maxfield's the number 2 horse. Express Train, number 5, runs second. Number 6, Idol, wins the race. Maybe a going forward in the handicap division. Nice little late run here, gets going, and gets up. The chart margin is half a length over Express Train. And again, Maxfield winds up third under Florent Giraud. Lightly raced. And that's why I say he could be interesting watching going forward in the handicap division. Started the career member at Churchill, and kind of a belated debut, September of the 3-year-old season, runs second in a maiden race, second start at Churchill, breaks the maiden, third start at Churchill, wins an allowance event. Went to Churchill for Richard Balthus because he wasn't races in Southern California for the horse, so starts the career at Churchill last fall, then comes back to Santa Anita for this winter meet. Runs second in the San Antonio right at the beginning of the meet, followed that up running third in the San Pasquale, and they stretched the 1.25 miles, and in career start number 6, he wins the big cap. And at the 1.25 miles, it seems like, and these were the post-race comments, he liked the distance. He appreciated the 1.25 miles. Because of that, the Hollywood Gold Cup, the Pacific Classic. This horse can put both of those on the resume as well. He gets $1 million bonus. So at least the Hollywood Gold Cup has to, that the next race in that sequence, you lose that race and then the $1 million bonus goes out the window. Maybe you look around at other options. But at this point, Hollywood Gold Cup, Pacific Classic are the goals kind of going forward if there are other races on the agenda. But again, with $1 million up for grabs as bonus money, and a horse that in the only career start number 6 gets it done, seems to appreciate distance, take a path like that. So again, Idle gets it done. Maxfield, jockey said, man, maybe didn't like the track. I never excuse, or whether it's real or not. That's what you don't know to make. I think it's true for some horses. It just becomes kind of convenient for other horses. So we'll see. Maxwell is legitimate. They don't win them all. He looks so good in the 2 races down at the fairgrounds that he's a real player in this handicap division. Just didn't get him at the 1.25 miles on Saturday. But again, he luster off expectations for the rest of the year, where I think he'll be a player in that division. The Kilroe Mile, boy, this was a good race. On paper, nice field. There were certainly some familiar names for those of us on the east. There were some horses going west. Bill Mott, Chad Brown had some in there. Mark Cassey brought Ride a Comet. But there was also some very good horses based out in Southern California. And Hit the Road was one of those. We will see number 2, Hit the Road, win the Kilroe by a neck over number 1, Smooth Like Straight. Number 8, Count Again, was in the mix. Number 6, Flavius, runs 4th. The East Coast Invaders not really getting it done, but as you can see, there was a slew of them kind of right there at the wire. But holding them off was Hit the Road. Florent Giraud, a very clever ride. He rode the rail. He found a spot and got up for the win, holding off Smooth Like Straight as they went to the wire. Trained by Dan Blacker. It was his first Grade 1 win, so congratulations to the trainer for getting it done. Florent Giraud on board for the win. Hit the Road, coming out of a win in the Thunder Road at Santa Anita previously. He likes the turf course. Now 4 wins in 5 starts on the Santa Anita grass. So again, a little bit of a hometown hero there. Hit the Road, getting it done in career start number 9. Puts a Grade 1 on the resume. And again, the first Grade 1 as well for the trainer. So Hit the Road in the Kilroe. A little bit earlier, the San Carlos for the sprinters. And the San Carlos was won by Brickyard Ride, who clearly looked like one of the players, off at 5-1, so you got a little value. Brickyard Ride was coming out of a win in a Calbred Sprint Stakes race at Santa Anita with a decent 99 buyer. Follows it up yesterday with the San Carlos win, as you can see. kind of took him all the way around. Trainer said he really wasn't sweating at all as Brickyard Ride, chart margin of 4. It was close for second. Tigra di Slugo as the 5-2 favorite runs second by a nose. Exalted runs third in there, but boy, that was a nice run for Brickyard Ride to put a couple of wins on the resume in the 2 most recent starts. But as I said with the previous race, with that one being a horse for the course on the Santa Anita turf, Brickyard Ride, Santa Anita dirt, now 5 for 6 at Santa Anita for Brickyard Ride. And again, you got $12 even for the win there on a horse that clearly likes the running out there in Southern California, based out there, but likes that Santa Anita surface in particular. And finally, have to show what was probably the race of the day. Came back from this race when we were on with OTB Live yesterday, and just had that was the only response. Jaw-dropping performance. It was the San Felipe, which we talked about yesterday with John White, and said, looked like the Baffert runners would be the ones to watch. But it was kind of a loaded field. It was interesting. Mike Callahan on the stakes preview, like Roman Centurion. Brian Nadeau, we talked about the race with him yesterday. He thought Roman Centurion was interesting. Dream Shake off the debut victory in that Bezos race was very intriguing. The Great One had broken the maiden impressively for Doug O'Neill in the previous start. So it was kind of a salty little field. But Life is Good, the number 1 horse, comes out of the gate, and Smith works him out of the gate to get position, but he had a couple of horses on his outside. As they hit the clubhouse turn, he kind of cut the turn. He was right there, and the other horses in the field just floated a little bit, enough so that on the clubhouse turn, he spurts away. He holds that margin on the backside, and then it just seems like he opens up from there. This was really a wildly impressive performance, I thought. Number 1, Life is Good. Chart margin winds up to be 8 lengths as the 1-2 favorite. You can see he winds up a little bit out in the middle of the track. Smith said after the previous win, and I will say Medina Spirit, the other batter, is the 3 horse, winds up second, and Dream Shake winds up third, but clearly they're well beaten. But Smith said, boy, he's still a little green. He was looking at the monitor, the TV monitor on the infield screen, the big monitor after the sham. Well, after yesterday's race, Smith said, again, he likes to look at that infield monitor. In the morning, he's on, but he gets in the stretch and he's looking over at the TV. And so 3rd career start, clearly still kind of figuring it out, but that was a very nice performance. Bob Baffert says Santa Anita Derby likely next for this one. But he's passed the 2-turn test, 1 mile and a 16th. He just looks to have a level of brilliance at this point. It makes Life is Good very intriguing. And as I say, after the races were over yesterday, as I pulled up that odds board for the Kentucky Derby future, he has now become the favorite on that, and no surprise there for Life is Good. That, as I say, kind of a jaw-droppingly impressive performance with the way he did it. Again, he was right there with a couple of horses as they entered the clubhouse turn. Then he cuts the turn and kind of spurts away, and at that point it was all over. It seemed like if you had Life is Good, you were not sweating from that point on. They got into the stretch, and it was even more facile as he got it done again by a chart margin of 8. And it's going to be interesting to see. There's some question, does he stretch out? But boy, what we saw yesterday certainly looked good. All right, I'll take a break. When we come back, we'll do a little handicapping, and a little bit after that, we will delve into the Aqueduct replays, including the Gotham, with our friend Dave Grening, New York correspondent from the Daily Racing Form. So all of that is coming up. Stay tuned.
Where's the best place to find your favorite teams, your favorite food, daily drink specials, and wagering on live horse racing? Legends Field Sports Bar, 711 Central Avenue, Albany. Get your game on day or night with 75 flat-screen TVs, tournament-style pool tables, a private banquet room, and live horse racing. So if someone asks you, where's the best sports bar in the capital region? Tell them Legends Field Sports Bar, inside the Clubhouse Racebook, 711 Central Avenue, Albany.
Capital OTB is now streaming live on Roku. The RTN Racing channel on Roku lets you watch OTB TV live through your Roku device or your Amazon Fire Stick, rather than being limited to computers and mobile devices, which means you can now watch OTB live wherever you are. Simply open Roku, scroll to find the RTN channel, then click on OTB TV. OTB TV on Roku. Try it now.
Welcome back to Racing Across America on this Sunday morning. As usual, a little handicapping here in segment number 2. I thought I'd take a look at the late pick 4 at Tampa. Again, not putting necessarily a ticket together, but just giving you thoughts in that late pick 4. It looks like the weather today is nice down on the west coast of Florida. Again, yesterday they were expecting, if you go back 2 or 3 days, expecting some rain, and it played out beautifully for them down at Tampa. I'm thrilled because any track on their big day, you like to see it kind of hold together, and it did yesterday, and it looks like today even better. I mean, it seemed cloudy yesterday. I think it's supposed to be sunny and nice there today. So again, knock wood, things hold together again this afternoon. The late pick 4 at Tampa kicks off in race number 6 with $10,000 claimers going 1.40 miles. And again, this afternoon we'll be looking at this sequence live, so tune in for OTB Live. Probably again 12:30 or so. We'll jump in with thoughts on the afternoon. But this 6th race at Tampa, I have it 7, 4, 3, and 2. I'll put Mystic Link on top. Sammy Camacho on board this one. Won a similar event, 2-back, with Sammy Camacho on board. Followed up in an optional claimer starter allowance. It was probably a little saltier than this, and so just gets back to the proven comfort zone of the win 2-back. Seems logical. Exchequer in the second spot. Nice win last time against a little bit lesser. Claimed out of that race. So moving into a barn, it's a little lesser known. Not only is the trainer limited on any stats, but the trainer is also the owner. I kind of look at these as hobby horses sometimes, where people get in and, hey, I'll train my own horse. And, they have 1 horse or 2 horses, and I'm always a little leery of those. But I think this horse has some talent. And again, we don't know enough about the trainer yet to know if this is one of those situations. But the horse has done very well overall at Tampa, so I'll put Exchequer in the mix. Discreet Heat off a good second place finish last time as the favorite, was claimed out of that and moves up the claiming ranks. So again, another one, maybe a couple of question marks given the scenario, but Gallardo is on board. And again, overall, I think this horse runs decently, particularly as compared to this type. So in the 6th at Tampa, 7, 4, 3, and 2. Race number 7 at Tampa on Sunday afternoon, scheduled for the grass. Conditional claimers, I have it 8, 7, 3, and 12. The 12 is an also eligible, and a couple deep on the also eligible. So we'll need some scratches to help us out. But if the 12 gets in, 15-1 on the morning line, I think that horse could be a player. But again, 8, 7, 3, and 12 for me. So the 8 on top, Violator. Good second place finish in a similar event last time. Took the lead late and just got caught to run second. But I think that race sets this one up to run very well this afternoon. Again, in a very similar event. Second spot, Mountain Holiday. Race 2-back was very good. Again, similar. Last time was in a similar race and didn't run so well. So this one's a little bit inconsistent. But overall, I think as compared to this bunch, probably fits with this group this afternoon, becomes competitive. Harkening back to, 2, 3, 4 starts back. So I'm expecting a competitive effort today with this group. In It for Love in the 3rd spot. Just seems to be in some decent form over the past few starts. Broke the maiden 3 starts back. The follow-up against N2L types, 6th place finish, but by less than 2 lengths. And then last time, decent little third. So I think this horse also knocking on the door with this type of a group and should be a player this afternoon. Race number 7, 873. And again, if that 12 gets in, take an extra look at that one. Tampa's 8th race on Sunday afternoon. Bottom level conditional claimers, well, 8,000. I'm not sure if they go lower than 8 or not. Bottom-ish at the very least. Conditional claimers at Tampa. 1 mile and 40 yards to trip. 8, 3, 9, and 6. Yachty on top. Question mark here is this horse most recently has been turf. But there are dirt starts on the page that are probably good enough, off the turf races, but they're probably good enough. A plain dirt race last August was good enough. And this horse is also coming over from Gulfstream and getting some price relief as well. So I think there's a little venue and price class relief that maybe mitigates the surface switch. But again, the horse has dirt races that I think are good enough for this group. Dan Santino jumps on board, having a good meet. So we'll put Yachty on top. I don't know. I love the price. We have 12 to 1 on the morning line. I'm just not quite convinced we'll get the price. In fact, I'm going to make a note and see what will we get. This to me looks more, just looking at the rest of the field. Yeah, this to me, I'm having a hard time looking at any higher than 5 to 2, and that may be generous. I think this horse will take some action. And the morning line may be based on the fact that it is turf form, but there are dirt races that are good enough. So Yachty, to me, again, going to be interested to see as they kind of march towards the gate what we look at as odds, because that 12 to 1 morning line looks very generous. Roaring River in the second spot. Couple of starts so far. Couple of nice improving efforts. The maiden breaker last time just kind of signaled, A, this horse fits with this group, but if we get further improvement, maybe becomes even more dangerous. Morning line favorite is number 9, at 2 to 1. Getting some class relief that probably will attract some attention. And on the numbers thrown, I think this horse is a real player. I'm not sure I'm thinking this horse is any better than my top pick, however. So the discrepancy in the morning line as I get the price on the horse I like on, but I think it's mandatory, certainly belongs in the firmly in the conversation. So in the 8th at Tampa, 8, 3, 9, and 6. And finally at Tampa in the 9th and final on Sunday afternoon. They're on the grass again for $16,000 claimers. And if it should go to the dirt, they didn't get enough weather yesterday that I would think there would be any change. But I have dirt picks on the website if that winds up to be the case. And this afternoon on OTB Live, I would switch things up live. But as I say, with the weather situation, I would expect the turf to hold up. I have this 9th at Tampa, 3, 1, 5, and 10. Morgan's Ziva in the top spot. Was in and off the turf for last time, showed some speed before just getting caught late, but the turf races underneath are pretty good. And again, stack up very well with this group this afternoon. Been knocking at the door on occasion and been in this level for a while now. So I think comfort zone class-wise, and seems to be in some halfway decent form. Sammy Camacho is on board the Roy Lehrman trained Over to You, the number 1 horse, coming off a good try last time. So I think this one is a real player. And Classical Music, 10 to 1 on the morning line. Lots of early speed, though. And, there are a couple other horses in here who maybe have some speed, including my top pick. I'm just wondering if Classical Music may wind up being the one that opens up a little bit. And if so, that's always dangerous. So in the 9th and final at Tampa, 3, 1, 5, and 10. All right, there are some ideas. The late pick 4 at Tampa on Sunday afternoon. We'll take another break, as promised earlier. When we come back, we'll delve into the stakes action yesterday at Aqueduct, including that Gotham, which was just a ding-dong battle. We'll watch the stretch run when we come back, but we'll get some comments also from Dave Grening, New York correspondent of the Daily Racing Form. Stay tuned.
Horses racing, people betting. It's been going on since before the Roman Empire, and the fastest horse is still the one that wins. Where there's gambling, there's cheating. That hasn't changed either. What has changed are the tools used to combat doping and cheaters. Today, professional horse racing operates under an aggressive anti-doping program, testing labs on par with the Olympics, and standards tougher than human sport. For 85 years, Racing Commissioners International has fought for safe horses and honest sport. ARCI standards form the basis for the rules of racing. Today, they call for a new expanded program to protect all horses, young and old. To join with them or learn more, visit arci.com.
Welcome to Albany County, an incredible destination to live, work, and play, with easy connections to more than a dozen cities from our vibrant modern airport. It's a short trip downtown to a hive of culture and amusement, from world-class shows at the newly renovated Times Union Center to reliving the past at the New York State Museum. From outdoor recreation to shopping to nightlife, Albany has something for everyone. We'll soon.
Welcome back to Racing Across America, as promised before them now by Dave Grening, the New York racing correspondent for the Daily Racing Form. Dave, good morning.
Good morning, Seth. How are you?
Very good. Happy to have you on board. Talk a little stakes action yesterday, and actually wanted to hit on a couple other things before we get to that, though. I was reading an article that you have posted on the drf.com website talking about Brooklyn Strong. Boy, he was so good in the Remsen. I really was looking forward to the 3-year-old season, which has been a little bit delayed, but it looks like potentially they're looking to debut him this year in the Wood.
That's the new plan. He got sick and then missed some training time, and I think he would have probably tried maybe the Gotham if he had been ready for it, or the Withers. Was probably the race they really wanted to make and keep him at the mile and eighth. But when he missed that, I think they would have tried the Gotham as a secondary spot, but it just didn't pan out. So they're going to try and train him up to the Wood and see what happens. And it's a tall ask to go from December 5th to April 3rd and run a mile and eighth, but he did show that he could handle the distance. He showed that he likes Aqueduct, so I guess they'll take a roll of the dice and see where they're at.
Yeah, I agree with you. Big ask, but I'm rooting for him. When you have connections like that and they have a horse like this, you like to see them have things kind of pan out. So far they haven't, but we'll see. Because as I say, good. It was fun, the win last year, so we'll see how it plays out. Before we get into stakes action as well, just curious, what is now as we're progressing through the pandemic year, and you've been down at Belmont and the Aqueduct during the winter season. It was very different at Saratoga without fans and owners being allowed and whatnot. But I'm just wondering, can you get used to the no fan situation? And with things now on the verge of hopefully getting back to some semblance of normalcy by summertime with vaccines and whatnot, has the Racing Association offered up any kind of hope or plans for fans maybe at Saratoga?
They haven't said anything directly about it, but I'm sure they're anticipating and working behind the scenes to come up with plans for fans, not only at Saratoga, but I would say at some point at Belmont, whether that's opening day in April or sometime in May. I think they're working definitely behind the scenes to try and get that accomplished, and I would almost guarantee that we'll see, barring a setback of some sort with the virus, there'll be fans at Saratoga, and I would almost believe that there'll be fans to some capacity on Belmont Stakes Day. How they operate, the rest of it, I'm not sure. Both Aqueduct and Belmont are being used as vaccine distribution centers, so that's why I don't think you'll see anything at Aqueduct, even for like a race like the Wood Memorial. I don't think they want to intermingle fans with the vaccine process that's basically taking up a good chunk of the first floor. There's not really a great outdoor section anymore at Aqueduct, so I don't think you'll see that. Belmont more room. I don't know exactly where they're doing the vaccines. I've seen the cars, but I don't know exactly what area they're. I'm assuming the Belmont Cafe for the vaccines at Belmont, but I'm not sure how they. There it's a little bit easier to sort of keep the fans away from the vaccine. People who are getting the vaccine. So I think we'll see it at Belmont. I'm almost guaranteed we'll see it to some degree at Saratoga. What percentages? Will they do a percentage? Will they do like 10,000, 8,000, something like that? That remains to be seen. But I think you'll be hearing something fairly soon about that.
Yeah, with the governor making the decision for sports venues and whatnot, it's just going to be interesting to see how it plays out, because I think as opposed to a basketball or football arena, a horse racing venue is just a little bit different in the way people move around and whatnot. So it'll be interesting to see how they play it out. But yeah, again, I'm knocking wood there as well that things work out, vaccines and whatnot, and things get back to some semblance of normalcy. All right, let's go back to yesterday and get some thoughts on really nice stakes action yesterday. And we'll start things out on the Derby Trail and the Gotham. And boy, was this some race. And we're going to watch the stretch run here. Number 8, Wyburn, at 46-1, gets the lead. And then Crowded Trade, the other Chad Klarovich runner, looks like Crowded Trade is going to go, I think, get ahead or a half a length in front. And Wyburn just says, I this horse win, and gets up by a nose under the wire again at 46-1, 5-1 Crowded Trade second, and number 3 Highly Motivated. The more promising, according to the bettors, half of the Klarovich runner winds up running third. But boy, Wyburn again. Congratulations to Jimmy Jerkins. And we have a photo there. Just got up by a hair at the wire. It's Jimmy Jerkins. It's Chiefwood Stable. And I had talked to Rob Landry up at Woodbine. I think it was 2019. We were either up there for Queensland or Woodbine Mile. And Rob, Chiefwood does great up at Woodbine. And he said, we want to get some more dirt horses in our stable and play around and spread some of those horses around and try to go for some of the dirt races down in the United States. Well, they have one in Wyburn. Going to be really interesting. Tell us a little bit about your thoughts on the race, but also reading your article this morning. It's just lucky that he wound up in the race.
Actually, the top 2 finishers really were not earmarked for the Gotham. There was an allowance race, first level allowance race going a mile, scheduled for Saturday, where I think the racing office was hoping to get, a 6 or 7 or whatever horse field for the Gotham, and same for the allowance race, and then they could have an additional winner come out of the allowance race and point for the Wood Memorial. And that's typically the plan when you put a race in a book like that. But the Gotham was sort of, I wouldn't say falling apart, but it wasn't attracting anybody else except for the sort of the core 4 that I've been writing about for about a week or two. And I don't think the racing office was keen on putting up an allowance race against it, knowing that there were several horses that they could get out of there into this race. So they kind of killed the allowance race and basically left it up to the horsemen of these other horses that were pointing for that race to, give the Gotham a shot, because essentially it was an allowance race, aside from maybe Highly Motivated, who hadn't run since November, and Capo Cane, who, yes, he won the Jerome, but he didn't run all that strongly in the Withers. So you had 4 horses that were earmarked for the allowance race come into this race. And Jimmy Jerkins said afterwards, well, it's a good thing the allowance race didn't go, because, he wouldn't have a Gotham winner in his barn. I thought Waver was pretty game. I think he was a little green still when he took a while to change leads, but once he did, he sort of resurged and won that Bob or Crowded Trade, who looked like a winner. In mid-stretch, the horse was perched 3 wide, made that move, and looked like he was going to go by. And maybe he was going from 1 6 furlong race to a mile on a deep kind of demanding racetrack. And I thought he ran extremely well to be second, and almost he ran a winning race. And then Highly Motivated, off a bit slow, which I think he was in the race that he won at Keeneland, but then he had to steady a little bit. About a furlong when the way the chute hooks up to the main track, it looked like White the Slate kind of came in a step, and Javier Castellano had to take up on Highly Motivated. Yet he didn't think that cost him. I thought it kind of did a little bit. Maybe it didn't cost him the win because he got beat in length and 3/4, but he might have been in the photo too, or in the back end of that photo. But a decent enough race for those top three. I wouldn't necessarily be, buying any tickets for the Kentucky Derby for any of them, but a nice starting point for these races, of course.
Yeah, always easy to root for Jimmy Jerkins, and a nice training job by him. Again, according to your article, they missed the Jerome, they missed the Winkfield with some setbacks. So to come back like this in the seasonal debut and get the win, nice job there. But as you kind of alluded to, is this a Derby prospect? Not even nominated, but what I thought was interesting, they're still kind of debating whether they will nominate.
Yeah, I think, when I talked to Rob yesterday, Rob Landry, after the race, he said he would sort of take his guidance from Jimmy, more so of, tell me why we shouldn't kind of do it, you know? I think that the goal is, and talked to Jimmy a little while ago, I'm pretty sure they will nominate. In sort of reading a little bit between the lines of what Jimmy was saying this morning, I think he's more viewing this horse as maybe a Belmont-type horse. He thinks that the horse does have the stamina to go that far. He doesn't call him a plotter, but it's also, there's not necessarily that quick burst of speed that he has either. However, one thing that Jimmy said that I took note of, especially when it comes to considering the Derby, is he said the horse takes a little while to get used to surroundings, and that doesn't bode well when you're trying to go from New York, from anywhere, into Churchill Downs for the first time, especially with the Derby week, even in what would probably be a less chaotic situation than a normal Derby. I just, if you think he takes that time to get, affiliated with or to your surroundings, then maybe you just leave him here. And the other thing he said is he loved the job that Christophe Clement did with Tonalist, getting him ready for the Belmont Stakes, and that meant the Peter Pan Belmont. So I could see a scenario here where this horse runs in the Wood Memorial, which is likely to be his next start, and then depending on how he runs, if he wins, then maybe you rethink it. Wins impressively. If he runs a good top three, I can almost see a scenario where Jimmy says, "How about we go Peter? Leave him in here. He's at Belmont. Go Peter Pan and Belmont." And if I was a betting man, that's how I would look at it. Barring whether, unless he just jumps up and runs a hole in the wind in the Wood Memorial.
Yeah, very good. 95 buyer figure, so a nice number there. But interesting scenario with Wyburn, the winner of the Gotham yesterday. One race earlier, and when I was on the air yesterday afternoon, I said, man, I'm really looking forward to this race, the Heavenly Prize, because Lake Avenue was so good in her 2-year-old season. That Demoiselle showed so much promise. And then the 3-year-old season was just so disappointing. But the 4-year-old comeback down at Gulfstream kind of, maybe she's going to, that we saw as a 2-year-old. But I think this stakes race yesterday was more of the barometer on that, and she did it. Number 8, Lake Avenue gets it done. The chart margin is 6 3/4 lengths. Portal Creek, the number Flash and Dynamite, number 4 runs third. But as I say, I was looking forward to the race, and the Bill Mott runner kind of lived up to it. What were your thoughts on Lake Avenue and the Heavenly Prize?
Well, going in, I thought it was a 2-horse race, really, between Lake Avenue and Thankful. Thankful did not show up, even though I thought Thankful was really more of a horse that wanted the mile and aimed around 2 turns. But I didn't necessarily think there was anything else in here that was that strong. Portal Creek ran better than I even gave her credit for, although if she had run well before, I thought she might be one of those horses that might be Lasix dependent and running without Lasix in stakes races in New York. I thought that could maybe impact her performance, and she ran well enough. I thought it was a visually impressive victory for Lake Avenue. I agree. Maybe she's starting to show that revert back to that 2-year-old form. Because her 3-year-old form, starting with the Busher last year, which was no good, and then she kind of if he had to do it over again on some of his horses, would regret trying to ship around and trying to get to spots that maybe some of his horses weren't necessarily prepared for. And I think he just did that because he didn't know what the situation was with the pandemic.
Yeah.
When will New York open again? What will New York look like? So I think it was a good race for her. It should set her up for something. I mean, she's got options. She could run in the distaff here at Aqueduct. Now she's 3 for 4 at Aqueduct, so the distaff might make sense at 7/8. The top flight at 1 1/8, as you said, she won the Demoiselle, so she could handle that. or if they want to go big game hunting, they could maybe ship down to Keeneland for a race like the Grade 1 Madison on the 3rd. But good comeback race. She's still here. Leanna Williford, Del Mott's assistant, was waiting to hear whether she should return to Florida or not. But it doesn't make sense to me because either the races that she's going to run in next are either here or at Keeneland.
Yeah, and you said when we were off the air, you said weather may be turning. It's turning up here, hopefully, soon, so the weather may be turning down there, too. We'll keep our fingers crossed, both locations. The Tom Fool won race earlier. Not much to say here. Was a front-end score. Oh, and I'll say Lake Avenue yesterday was an 89 buyer in the Heavenly Prize. A big 100 buyer in the Tom Fool for Chateau, who took them all the way around. The disappointment for me here, I put Pete's Play Call on top, and Pete's Play Call is the 5-2 favorite, winds up 4th in the field of 6. But as I say, not much more to say than Chateau going out to the lead and just opening up from there. Chart margin is 3.5 lengths, but if you like Chateau, there was no sweat anywhere throughout the running of the Tom Fool yesterday.
Yeah, he was very impressive, and don't let the times fool you. The track was probably a 1 3/5 to 2 seconds slow. The final time is 1:12 and 10, but this race came up every bit as fast as his allowance win previous to this when he ran like 10 and 2, and I think got a 96 buyer. This was impressive. It looked like there was other speed in there. When Baffert ships a horse in, you have to sort of acknowledge that the California speed is really good, and I thought between either him or Happy Farm, they could they could make things a little problematic for Chateau on the front end. But no, Chateau was just faster than these. Sometimes the fastest horse wins, and most times the fastest horse wins, and he was just the fastest horse, and very impressive performance. And talking to Rob Atras this morning, even though this race is sort of a stepping stone to the Carter, I didn't get the feeling that he was anxious to run this horse 7/8. And he's got American Power, who won the Toboggan. So I think he'll nominate both horses to the Carter, and then see how the race is coming up and how the horses are doing. But I'd be surprised if Chateau showed up in the Carter. The only problem is you might have to wait 2 months to track at 3/4. We have the Run Happy Stakes on May 8th at 3/4. That's probably the next opportunity in New York, unless he decides to ship out of town.
Yeah, but an impressive performance again on the front end yesterday with a 100 buyer. And finally, let's go back to the Busher 3-year-old fillies going the 1-turn mile. And I like Mo Desserts in here. Oof, that one's 6th in the field of 6 for Jimmy Jerkins. He got redeemed a little later in the day, though, with the win in the Gotham. I thought the horse to beat, was going to be Miss Brazil from Tony Dutrow off of the big number 2 back, but the win in the Ruthless in the previous start. The Miss Brazil winds up running 2nd. And I had search results down in the 3rd spot, Chad and Klarovich off a debut victory down at Gulfstream. That horse was certainly logical as a contender, and search results does get it done. Nice stretch battle here with Miss Brazil, and winds up being half a length over Miss Brazil. The grass is blue, running 3rd in here. But again, it's Chad, it's Klarovich. They're always talented. They're talented early in the career, and in start number 2, search results puts a stakes victory on the resume.
Yeah, my one question mark on Miss Brazil was the mile and also what she got out of her last race. She hadn't run since November 29th when she ran in the Ruthless on February 8th, and it was a 3-horse field, easily handled, and she was trying to stretch out to a mile for the first time. So you wondered how she would do that, how well she would do at that. She ran okay. She ran well. She ran well. Search results, a good step up, not only in distance, but, she hadn't run since January 3rd when she broke her maiden off a bit of a slow start. And, one kind of wrapped up, so it wasn't so much an issue that the distance wasn't going to be an issue. It's just a matter of whether she would, step up in class, coming out of one race, going up against, I think there were 4 stakes winners in here. The disappointment to me in this race was Leo Bound on a prayer. I thought maybe she was a little bit better than she's going to turn out to be, or maybe she just needs New York Red Company. But it was a solid effort. I'll tell you what, impressively, they came home very fast, 24 and 3. I know it was off slow, 3/4 of 15, but I think it was the fastest final quarter of the day, 24 and 3. I thought that was impressive, and they both ran well. I could see search results stretching out. Maybe they give her a shot in a race like the Gazelle. I would see Miss Brazil staying in the 3/4 to 7/8. range. Although where that puts her in New York, there's a dearth of those types of races. So she would either have to wait a while or go out of town.
Yeah, again, nice performance from both of the top two, and we'll see what they do, staying sprinting or, as you say, maybe stretching out a little bit for the Chad Klarovich runner. Both fairly lightly raced going forward. Nice stakes action. Oh, and search results, 84 buyer for her yesterday. But really nice stakes action in New York yesterday. And Dave, before we let you go, I'm curious, did you look at the other two Derby preps yesterday? Any thoughts on Helium? And I thought Life is Good. I thought that was a jaw-dropping race out in the San Felipe.
Life is Good is very fast, very impressive. I just don't know. The 1.25 miles seems to just gnaw at me a little bit for that horse, but I think he's got brilliant speed, and maybe he's just that good that he could just get out there and keep flaunting it. Again, another comment made by Baffert after the race or Mike Smith, I should say, that he kind of, he sees things and he saw the screen or something, and because he did kind of drift out a little bit, but he's also has the right to get a little bit tired when he's going as fast as he was. So another impressive Derby prospect from the Bob Baffert farm. The Tampa Bay Derby, nice performance by Helium, especially trying dirt for the first time. The Tampa Bay Derby is it's in an odd spot on the calendar to a degree where you either sit on him until the Kentucky Derby or you squeeze in another race. Neither situation may be ideal. To me, I would come back in a race like the Woods if I was that horse, but reading what my colleague Marty McGee wrote and talking to Mark Cassey, it sounds like there's a good chance they could sit on until the Kentucky Derby, and I don't like that idea. So Helium looks to be a nice horse. I'm going to say that the Tampa Bay Derby and the Gotham have zero impact on the Kentucky Derby.
And I'm with you on the calendar situation. And I said earlier in the show when I talked about the race, Mark Cassey looking maybe to just sit on the sidelines to the Derby. At which point, a horse I thought was interesting yesterday and maybe interesting in the Derby becomes of no interest to me. I get it's the 21st century and layoffs are a little less of a concern than they were when I first got into the game. But Tampa Bay Derby, the Kentucky Derby, I can't pull a trigger on that.
Especially when you're going from 1.16 miles to 1.25 miles. I think it does make a bit of a difference when you're running against horses out of Santa Anita Derby, Arkansas Derby, Wood Memorial Bluegrass, who are getting that 1.1 miles foundation under them. This horse, I think, has only had the one race this year, so you're going to go in with one race off the 1.16 miles, one race at 1.16 miles since he ran in the display, and it's not an ideal scenario. The scenario is good because the future is good because he ran well on the dirt, so he transferred that synthetic form to the dirt. But to me, I'm almost thinking, why not shoot for the Preakness and let these other horses that are more battle tested, knock each other out. The Preakness is usually a half the size of the Derby field, and then you can get in another race and then get to the Preakness.
Yeah, I like that idea. Very good. Dave, as always, appreciate the conversation. I'll alert people again. Check out Dave's work in the Daily Racing Forum, drf.com. Appreciate the conversation, and we'll talk again.
Thanks, Seth. Be well.
All right, you too. Dave Grening, New York correspondent for the Daily Racing Forum. Some thoughts on what was really a spectacular card yesterday at Aqueduct. And again, we also talked about the Santa Anita card, the Tampa Bay card. Really a big day. Tampa record handle yesterday. They are racing. Hopefully you cashed some tickets because there were some opportunities yesterday to do so. All right, as we wrap things up, do want to thank our friends at Gulfstream for their sponsorship of some of the programming and events here. Gulfstream, again, appreciate their support. I will be back, as I mentioned earlier, probably, again, about an hour and a half or so, about 12:30 as we'll kick off an OTB Live for Sunday afternoon. I'm going to take a look at a little Tampa, a little Aqueduct, a little Gulfstream, but we'll have Fairgrounds and Oaklawn and a little later on Santa Anita in the mix. Lots of great racing action to come on this Sunday after a big day yesterday. And as I say, hopefully you loaded your pockets on some of those races and you're good to go for a Sunday afternoon. Looking forward to it in about an hour and a half or so. Oh, and congratulations to our syndicate team. And check out the website on Mondays now. The new syndicate will open up. But the syndicate, and if you're not familiar, a group of players are selected. Really, it's a first come, first serve. That's why you have to check on Monday. Everybody kicks in. I believe it's $20. There's a pool put in. OTB puts in some money, and then a $750 pick ticket is played. And yesterday, the syndicate played into the late pick 5 at Gulfstream, and they hit 4 of the legs, but the leg they didn't nail or hit, that leg too. But in the middle of the sequence, there was a stakes race that was taking all the grass. So that became an all race. Well, they were 5 deep in that race. So as they got to the last race, they had 5 tickets alive, hit the last race. And so not only hit the pick 5 bet, but had it 5 times the 50-cent increment. So it was a nice hit yesterday for the big roll team. So congratulations to them. But as I say, the syndicate team, the syndicate plays will open up on Mondays via the website. So if you'd like to participate going forward, it gives you a chance, again, for a modest amount of money on a big ticket. And I will say that they had 5 horses live into the last leg with 5 tickets each. And it was the smallest result, which was still okay. Everybody got some free money, but there were a couple that if they hit, it would have been a really good day for the syndicate team. And that's the beauty of it. It gives you a chance for a modest amount of money to be in on a pick ticket that potentially could pay off very, very nicely. So again, keep that in mind. Check out the website to participate going forward in the syndicates, the Saturday syndicates. All right, I am going to wrap things up for this Sunday edition of Racing Across America. Don't forget, once again, I'll remind you, Kentucky Derby Future Pool, Kentucky Oaks Future Pool, and an Oaks Derby Future Double, all available by the end of the day. Again, if you're going to play them, jump in and do it. The Derby pool usually closes at 6, and the Oaks pool is usually a little bit earlier than that. So again, if you want to do it, take a look. The odds you have at this point are probably pretty much what you can expect by the end of the day. So really, anytime today, you can kind of jump in and feel like you're probably going to get pretty close to what the odds at that time. But again, I'm running late, so I'm going to wrap it up for a Sunday morning. Thanks for tuning in to this edition of Racing Across America. And once again, be back in about an hour and a half or so for OTB Live on a Sunday afternoon. We'll see you then.
You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off Track Betting.